True scary story. Title: The Late Night Stalker. I've always been a night owl. The quiet hours after midnight are when I get most of my work done. But one night, working late, would lead to the most terrifying experience of my life. It started on a Wednesday. I was sitting at my desk, typing away at a project that was due the next morning. The only light in the room came from my computer screen. The rest of my apartment was cloaked in darkness, save for the faint glow of the city lights creeping through the blinds. Around 2:30 a.m., I decided to take a break. I stretched, yawned, and headed to the kitchen to grab a snack. As I walked down the hallway, I felt a strange chill. It wasn't cold, more like the sensation you get when someone's watching you. I brushed it off, thinking I was just tired. But as I reached the kitchen, I heard it, a faint sound, like the creaking of a floorboard. It came from the living room. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I live alone, and no one should be in my apartment. Slowly, I peeked around the corner into the living room. Nothing, just the usual furniture, bathed in shadows. I stood there for a moment, listening, but all I heard was the distant hum of the city, trying to shake off the unease. I grabbed a snack and returned to my desk. I sat down, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying that sound. I told myself it was probably just the building settling, or a neighbor moving around. But then, I noticed something strange on my screen. A message box was open. I hadn't touched my keyboard since getting up, and I definitely hadn't opened any new windows. The message was short. "Why don't you check the door?" My heart skipped a beat. Was this some kind of prank? I looked around the room, half expecting someone to jump out at me, but I was alone. The apartment was dead silent. I hesitated, then slowly turned my chair to face the front door. It was closed, just as I had left it, but something was off. The peephole was covered. I hadn't noticed it earlier, but now it was clear. Someone had taped something over the peephole from the outside. My hands trembled as I stood up. I approached the door cautiously, my pulse racing. I reached out to touch the doorknob, but then I heard it. A soft, deliberate knock. 3 slow taps. Whoever was on the other side knew I was there. I backed away, my mind racing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to open the door, but I also didn't want to just stand there, waiting for whatever was outside to break in. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. As I waited for the operator to pick up, the knocking continued, louder and more insistent. The door rattled in its frame. Whoever was out there was getting impatient. Finally, the operator answered. I quickly explained the situation, my voice shaking. She assured me that officers were on their way and told me to stay on the line. But just as she said that, the knocking stopped. I held my breath, listening. Silence. Then, the sound of footsteps, walking away from the door. I didn't relax until I heard the distant wail of sirens approaching. When the police arrived, they found nothing outside my door, except a small piece of tape covering the peephole. There were no signs of forced entry, no clues as to who had been there or why. The officers advised me to stay somewhere else for the night, which I gladly did, but I never found out who was at my door that night or what they wanted. I moved out of that apartment a month later, but I still get chills every time I hear a knock at the door late at night.